Have you ever wondered how the hosts of television shows on HGTV and the DIY network make the leap from their everyday jobs to TV stardom? In the case of DIY's Nashville Flipped host, Troy Dean Shafer, his televised success was one part belief that his business of creating new historic houses could lead to a starring role on a television network, and one part luck, as Troy's talents as a house flipper and his potential as a television star were discovered by the creator, co-star, and executive producer of the History Channel's hit show American Pickers, Mike Wolfe.
I gave him my card, and I didn't know that I'd ever hear from him, but the next day I did. He wanted my help. He was buying a building downtown and wanted me to come and take a look at it with him on my thoughts on some structural issues. So Mike and I, we hit it off, and within a few months he hires me to renovate a home that he had just helped his stepson buy in a cool little part of East Nashville. And I think we impressed him with that, and we just kind of became friends. And after about a year of friendship, he calls me one day and says, I've got friends at HGTV, and I'd love to tell them about you. They're always looking for new young faces, and they don't really have anything in Nashville going on, so maybe they would like that. And I said, sure. But I told him the same thing. It couldn't be drama-filled. It couldn't be this over-the-top. And he just said, no, you have my word. If I ever helped you do this, it would just be who you are. I said, that's the first time anybody's ever said that. So I said, of course. A few weeks later, these executives show up at one of my job sites, and...
Did you know they were coming?
I knew somebody was coming eventually. I didn't know a date or time. I just knew they were in town, and they would eventually be coming. And I had several job sites, so I didn't know where or when they would show up. And, a black Lexus pulls up one day, and I was doing exactly what I do. I think I was bleeding. I think I'd cut myself, and the typical contractor thing is wrap it with duct tape. And I was covered in dirt, and it was raining, and so I had been under the house. I've got concrete, mortar, liquid nails. I was doing it all, and that must have really impressed the executives that were there that day, because it was a couple weeks later. Mike calls and says, you know what? They really liked you, and they've greenlit us to do a pilot episode. So if you're up for it, then let's get the ball rolling. And so I acquired a house.
Did you look for a house specifically thinking about television?
At this point I did, but this was also a time where the market was really picking up. So it wasn't as easy to go and buy that $30,000 house, $18,000 house. So I had to go to an auction, and nobody else there knew that I was about to do a TV show, thank goodness, or they might have really bid the price up. And my plumber Lee and I went down to the auction, and I'm taking pictures of it and texting it over to Mike, and he said, yeah, I love it, and hopefully you get it. And then sure enough, I got the house. And
what did you get it for, can you tell?
$106,000.
That's a lot of money for you.
Yeah, oh yeah.
That was a big price.
Yeah, at that point.
Right?
Yep.
And how much did you put into it? Do you know?
$80,000.
How long did it take to sell?
That one sold immediately. It literally sold the day it sold at the open house. It was the first person, actually, his name's Adam, the first person to walk through the doors. There was a line of people at the door, because there was this talk of a TV show for HGTV. Mike Wolfe's involved, Nashville Flips involved, and the day of the open house, there was probably a line of 40 people waiting to just get in the doors to see what we'd been doing. The first person, before he even left the place, had signed the contract.
What did it sell for?
I think $269, I think. But now, yeah, it was a great payday. Then we waited. It took them a few months to get it on the air, but it premiered April of 2015 on HGTV.
Okay. Did TV do any PR for it locally? Like, was there a big ramp up for it?
Not really.
Wow, that's surprising.
No. Well, and I think a big part of that was Scripps Network doesn't want that for a pilot episode. They have a strategy in place where all their pilot episodes end up premiering, the same time slot, the same audience, basically. So that's how they gauge truly organically how well it did. They didn't even want Mike Wolfe. They didn't want, him to draw an extra 100,000 people that are only tuning in because Mike said so. Well, if Mike doesn't say so the following week, are they still going to be there? In 6 months of filming a show, it never dawned on me that people outside of my friends and family were going to watch this. And it was about 24 hours beforehand where I'm not nervous at all, until I had this thought where I'm like, you know what? there's nothing stopping President Obama from tuning in to Nashville Flip tomorrow night. You know, there's nothing stopping some of my favorite singers, some of my favorite actors. When I had that moment where I go, oh my gosh, I mean, stuff is really going to change. Then I got nervous. Now the next 24 hours, I was really nervous. And I hadn't even seen the episode yet because we had been so busy. The production company and I had never even been able to find the time for me to sit down and watch the show. The show aired at 10 p.m. that night, and about 7 o'clock, oh my gosh. I had this fear that something was going to be in the show that I didn't want to be in the show. I'm a likable guy, but, you know, I'm human, and I have investors and lenders, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, like what kind of scene is there going to be where all of a sudden everybody's going to just look at me and be like, what? Like, you said that about me or something? And I'm thinking, because these are all my workers, my family, my friends, they're all here. So I remember having that fear. And I do remember about halfway through coming back from commercial, and as I watched it, all of a sudden it didn't dawn on me that I was even watching myself. Prior to that, I'm looking and I'm thinking, yeah, I remember wearing those jeans, or oh man, I should have, that shirt was, you know, too wrinkled or whatever. Like, I had all these thoughts going through my mind. But at that moment when I realized that I wasn't even focusing on not being me anymore, I realized the show's good. And I remember the executive, the same one I met that original day, he was at the party, and he's scrolling through Twitter. And at that time, I don't even think I could have logged into Twitter. I don't even think I had a Twitter account. But he's scrolling through it, searching the hashtag Nashville Flipped, and he's showing me some, like, big name people have written something about Nashville Flipped. Some big Broadway actress who had like 2.6 million followers had just written something like, love this show, new favorite show, way to go HGTV, hashtag Nashville Flipped. And that blew me away. Like, so you better believe the next 3 days I'm scrolling, trying to find every hashtag, and started Twitter. The next day, my Nashville Flip Facebook page went from maybe 3,800 likes to 15,000. They aired the show, they re-aired it, they tried different time slots, they tried a Saturday morning, they aired it 5 times. And even after then, it was still about a 3-month waiting period. And out of nowhere, I got the call from the producer, and he said they greenlit it. They want a whole season.
And how many shows is a season?
Well, it could have been 12, but we ended up just filming 8, and then we had the pilot episode as well, the 9th.
How long did they give you to get those shows to them?
We were doing 2 at a time over 6 weeks.
Every 6 weeks you had to flip 2 houses.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, it's as shocking as it sounds. And some would overlap. I mean, there'd be times where we're maybe in the final stages of these 2, but in order to hit time constraints, we got to start demoing these next 2.
So how many of those 8 houses now have been on TV?
Oh, all of them.
So it's all done?
Aired. Yep, that whole season aired.
And how did it go?
I mean, I think it went well. We're kind of in this waiting game right now. Like, I don't know. Like, I know it rated well, and a lot of people I've talked to said, well, you know, we think they're going to do a second season, and they want to move forward and do more. Can you do even more episodes this time around if we, you know, help line up some contractors and stuff? And of course, I'm always saying yes. I'm gonna do the houses anyways. Like, why not have a camera follow us around? But they haven't officially, you know, greenlit anything yet for season 2. So I don't know.